going on, everybody? Welcome to the Epic Home Haunts podcast. We are live. This is episode 5. Episode cinco.
Episode cinco.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. We made it to episode 5. My name is Josh Quillen.
Andrew Van Dyke, how we doing today, guys?
Hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday. Hope your weekend went well. Tonight, we have a very special guest. But before we get into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First things first, if you guys haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, we ask that you would. It's that little subscribe button and then hit the little belly bell so that you can be notified whenever we do stuff like this. Like us, just
like us, please. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Just like me, please.
We're very needy and need attention. That's basically what we're saying.
100%.
Perfect. Awesome. Second thing, if you guys want to help support the show, help support the sequel to the film, there's a little join button there. We don't do Patreon, but we do YouTube memberships. There are 2 levels. There's the Haunter level and the Haunter fan or Haunt fan level. Both get different things, have different perks. If you guys can check those out, go to youtube.com/epichomehaunts, hit join. If you guys are listening to this on the audio version, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It's available on Spotify. I don't know. There's like 5 of them. I don't know where it is. Not Pandora yet. We're going to submit to them. Make sure you guys check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/epichomehaunts, and you can actually see the things that we are talking about because it's a very visual art.
It's 100%. Like, we do things more visual than audio.
Yeah. I mean, our YouTube videos have binaural audio for all the haunts, but I mean, that does it only so much. It's a very visual thing.
Yes.
All right. I don't think there's anything else. Is there anything else?
I was going to say, let's play Find the Pumpkin.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So Andy's hiding this silly pumpkin around this set.
I'm sorry.
We'll figure something out for this pumpkin that it like first person to comment or something. We'll figure something out. I know we have a bunch of stickers and we have a couple of like pop socket things, and so we'll figure something out. Not this episode, but in future episodes. We won't mention it. It'll just be the first person to comment wherever this pumpkin is. You'll get something.
I literally have been having fun with it every week.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure out what we're going to do.
It's been one of those interesting situations.
Yes. The one more thing. So if you are watching this live on YouTube right now, because we are live, make sure you guys get in the chat, send us some questions, let us know what you want to know, and we will ask those questions of our guests.
It's a big thing. I think we need to actually get down to the business of asking questions because we got some pretty cool people that have been coming on here.
Yeah.
That literally can answer a lot of questions, especially for people that are, getting into it.
For new
advancing. Even some of the people that have been around forever. This is the time to ask those questions because we've got the opportunity to get them answered.
Especially today.
Yes. Well, I mean, especially today.
Especially today.
There's a lot of people that have been wanting to see this and ask questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have wanted this particular guest. Speaking of, let's bring him on. Our guest today is Mr. Derek Young from Van Oaks Props. There he is.
What's
going on, sir? How you doing today?
I'm here.
You are.
I'm good.
You made it. Question for you. What is do you have one of the ride plaques from like a Disney attraction for like don't step out of the vehicle?
I do. It's the sit holding hands and no dancing. And it's signed by Bob Gurr.
How do you have that? That's incredible.
I can't talk about it.
I like those conversations. The ones you can't talk about.
That's my favorite answer ever.
Disney is very litigious.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Disney being litigious. That's crazy sauce.
I've heard.
So for those of you who don't know who Derek is, make sure you go to Van Oaks Props. You can follow him on Instagram. You have a Facebook page, right?
I do. I don't use it very often, but it's there.
Okay. Instagram, I know you post a bunch there, and you're also on YouTube, youtube.com/Van Oaks Props. Check him out. He does videos at least once a week, right? What's your...
Every Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific.
You are very, very good at that as well, by the way, because I know every week there's going to be something new.
Very punctual.
And yeah, I watch all of them. I'm floored every time I see them, because you literally in like 6 minutes you'll go from like, this is a block of wood, and then by the end of it you're like, I have made a Rolls Royce that functions properly. And it's mind blowing to me what you're able to do with like 3 sprays of a sprayer. You're like, I have aged this 50 years, and you can macro lens this and not know the difference. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like anything. You have to demystify the process for people to feel like it's something that they can do. And that's sort of been my approach ever since I started making videos, was like, this doesn't have to be difficult. And growing up, my dad worked in the studios, and from time to time would bring me on set to see some of the stuff that they were doing. And I'll be honest, up close, stuff doesn't look that great. So, for most haunt situations, to just sort of be like, here's the 3 or 4 steps that will make it look great in haunt lighting for people that are going to be breezing past it, and to do it in less than 5 minutes. Like, I'm happy to share the knowledge,
And that's fantastic. And we need more people doing who know how to do the things you know how to do, who are willing to share it.
Yeah.
Like you guys, you, Chris and Gina from Hollywood Haunter, more knowledge being shared through the community is never a bad thing.
No, it's not. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask, because you said that your dad, right, you were part of the industry and you saw it. Was that the driving force, like, for you to do this and really condense it down into these small videos that allow people to really grow their stuff?
Not really. I've been a haunter since I was 16, 17 years old. So, more than half of my life. And it was very fortunate to be around other haunters who had been doing it longer than I have, who were willing to share what they knew. And so now that I'm in a similar position with a new platform to do it, like, none of this stuff started until the pandemic. So like, I would have gone to Midsummer Scream, and I would have taught at a workshop, or I would have had our monthly haunter meetings and would have taught prop making there. So I needed another avenue to sort of teach these things that I knew, or to share with my community, essentially. YouTube just seemed like the path of least resistance, but it was just me wanting to share the stuff that I knew with other people, because I'm a firm believer that, like, the more Halloween that there is, the more enjoyment October brings for everybody.
100%. And that's exactly why we push so hard for what we're doing with Epic Home Haunts, and trying to get people to, to see all the great things that everyone's doing, but at the same time realize it's not hard to get started, right? Throwing some tombstones in your yard, I mean, it's a slippery slope. You start with about 4 tombstones in your yard. 5 years later, you're building a full walkthrough in your driveway. Yeah. It's a slippery slope, my friends. Gravestones are the entry drug into home haunting.
It's crazy. It's crazy It's absolutely crazy how that is true.
Yeah. But I mean, I started as a kid, when I was in middle school, I would take our little driveway and I would throw up decorations, and then that blew up to like a year or 2 later, completely filling my entire garage with black trash bags and trying to create some walkthrough stuff. And it's definitely an addicting hobby to get into. It can be expensive, doesn't have to be, but it's so creative and it's so fulfilling. And I'm a huge fan of Halloween. I'm a huge lover of the holiday. And
well,
just
it's a piece by piece thing. You start out with the tombstones, and you just keep growing piece by piece by piece. Very, very, very much a what would you call, like, organic growth. It's very organic, and you have to grow slowly, but once you do it, you're bringing so much joy and you're bringing so much happiness, right? And I think that's like watching your videos and seeing what you've done with just the smallest things for people that they can do to bring such great joy in those little few minutes of time. Yeah. Right. That's huge. It's
well, that's what it's about, right? You go into a haunt, or you go into a display, you see a display and you're scared out of your mind. You go through the haunt and you come out and you're laughing, and it's, you're having the best time of your life. And that's what it's about, right? Yep. For sure. Yeah. Totally. Cool. So YouTube has been going well, right? Obviously.
Yeah. better than I would have ever expected.
I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago you were celebrating just a few thousand subscribers, and I looked today and you're at like 22,000 plus. Like, it's you're doing well. Good job.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's crazy because literally this was something that I started doing just because I needed something to do. You know, like I needed a way to kind of balance how I was feeling amidst all of the uncertainty of the world. You know, because I've had a YouTube channel for many years, and I'd post every once and again, and it was never anything particularly formal. There was no format to it. It was just like me kind of talking to the camera or whatever, off camera. And when I started doing these weekly videos, like people just responded to it. And, you know, I clearly remember being like, I'm so close to like 2,000 subscribers. I only have to get like a certain number more watch hours, and then I can become monetized and like maybe make a little money at this or something. You know, like it helped to have something sort of a goal to drive towards.
100%.
Yeah.
And now we're like 23,000 and change or something like that. Like I just never, because I'm like my own worst critic. I don't even like listening to myself.
Who does though, really?
So to think that, you know, people are like tuning in every week, and it's true, like they do. And I've like made friends with people as a result of them, like showing up in chat every weekend or like becoming patrons and supporting the channel and stuff. It's crazy. It's taken the stuff that I've done on a local level and made it that much bigger.
Well, there's a quick question I have though. Was there a moment, was there an episode, was there something that you did in this transition from, you know, every day, like going from a couple thousand, like 1,000 to 2,000? Where did you finally start? What episode did you start to go, this is the transition?
Like, this is working.
This is working, and people are responding to everything that I'm putting out there.
I don't know that there was necessarily like a moment per se.
Okay.
It's when I started to watch the numbers, which they always like, don't pay attention
Right.
to your numbers. It'll drive you nuts.
Don't watch the numbers. Don't read the comments.
Yep. That and that.
And I do both.
So do I.
But what happened was I started to see I would have like 100 views in the first hour or something, and I was like,
That's
there's
amazing.
100 people that care what I do.
Yeah.
And like now, you know, like that was the moment where I was like, wait a second, maybe it's catching on. Maybe I'm doing something right. And there's been like some small tweaks and stuff as we've gone along. You know, like when I first started making videos, I never really wanted to be on camera. It's not in my personality to be on camera and be like a personality. No, I don't think I'm that interesting. That's the thing. Like, if it weren't for having a project, I don't know what I would bring to the table, honestly.
Well, no, the knowledge is the key to just about everything that could be done, right? You're literally taking a project, but the thing is that it's the knowledge behind the project to get it done, and it's how to get it done that will draw more people in, and that's 100% you. That's 100% what you do, right? And so
Sure.
you have to understand, like, a lot of these people that we even just recently have talked to have attributed to their attention to detail to that specific thing.
Yeah.
You doing what you do.
Well, one recent example would be Chamber of Souls, who's actually online right now. You know, when we were talking to them a couple weeks ago, I mean, they've specifically pointed you out as a reason why they're so attentive to detail and trying to be as good as you are.
Yep.
Which is another testament to what you're doing in the community in general. Is you putting out such high quality stuff just makes everybody else want to be better and allows them to be better because they maybe get a tip or a trick or something they didn't know that they could do. And, you know, like, just like as an example, showing the teal paint you use to patina a sign, right? Knowing, oh, that's the paint to go get. I can go get it and instantly have something that looks similar to what you're doing.
Right.
That's huge. Like, for somebody like me who, you know, like these crappy pumpkins back here are like art projects of mine, or like the you know, little props that we've made for our films and stuff. That's all from watching like you, Hollywood Haunter. There's another gentleman, I can't remember his name. It's Monster Tutorials. Why would I not remember Monster seriously, dude? I think actually we have a sad xylophone, or sad, let's see, wait here. Nope. That was a wrong one.
Even better.
There it is.
There it is.
See, right? And the funniest thing is that like you've taken it to that point where you're not being selfish with the knowledge that you have. And I think that really has transcended and opened it up. We're talking about going from California, from the West Coast, all the way over
it was the whole world.
South Bend, Indiana, like right in that area. You've taken what you've done and been able to expand that group to that level.
No, it's amazing. And
it's amazing.
All we're going to see is it's just going to get better and better and better.
Yes, every single week, I'm finding that it's getting better. Not from just what's done up here, right? But what I'm saying, like it's getting better by us getting to know the people that have influenced other people that we're talking to.
Yeah.
That allows us to grow.
And everybody knows everybody else. Yeah,
yep.
It's fantastic. All right. So here's a question for you. So for somebody, a new haunter, or say somebody not even a haunter, somebody new into like prop making or haunting, or making, which I know you also run a podcast. We'll talk about that in a minute. Darren's in the chat trying to get us to talk about it. What are a couple of things, I don't know, like maybe top 2 or 3 things you would say are, focus on learning these couple of things when you're first starting out, as opposed to, it can be very overwhelming, right? You see just this plethora of stuff. Do I want to get into, electronics and maybe, Raspberry Pi type stuff? Or do I want to get into painting? Or do I want to get into the woodworking? That kind of stuff. Where should somebody focus if they're just starting out?
I think the most important thing before you even get into like what type of materials or what projects you want to make, feed your visual database. The best quality I think I can bring to a project is have this just like mental database of finishes and design styles and all that sort of stuff that I think really helps to inform how I approach a project. Like if you were to open up my phone and look in the photos, it's not like pictures of me and my wife and our families or any of that stuff. It's like pictures of moss, pictures of rust, pictures of patinas, pictures of like weird structures. You're just like feeding your imagination as much as you possibly can so that if you decide like, I want to build, whatever, you're like, I remember I had seen this thing that was kind of like this. And, maybe it was made this way or painted this way or whatever. And then you can take that knowledge of seeing, especially if it's like something in the real world, and then apply it to whatever you're working on. I think that is probably the most important thing you can do. Aside from that,
that makes a lot of sense. And the only thing I might add to that, just from my personal experience, would be trying to figure out why something works, or finding those small details. Best example recently from a podcast episode I could say is Wicker Manor with their elevator. They had distressed the elevator, made the plywood look like rusted metal and all that, but then he 3D printed a couple hundred bolts just to kind of have bolts around.
Wow.
But those bolts, as small as they were, really tiny, like thumbnail sized bolts, if they weren't there, you wouldn't know what was wrong, but you would know something was missing.
Yeah, you're missing that visual aspect that gives you something.
But that only
you don't have to answer any questions.
Yeah, and that only comes, though, from exactly what you're saying, which is look at everything, but like examine it closely. Figure out why it looks that way. You don't want somebody wondering why something is wrong. Yep. It's that uncanny valley, right? You want it done properly.
Yep.
All right. So sorry to cut you off. What was your next? Your number 2 there?
Don't even remember.
Well then.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. This has been a fun episode. Just kidding.
No, I'm sure it was about figuring out a pathway towards making more things, and I think a lot of it, as a maker in general. Sometimes it's just about figuring out what materials you like working with and going from there. Because like you could make a tree stump, let's say. You could make it with expanding foam. You could make it with crumpled up newspaper. You could make it with, you could carve it out of a block of foam. Like there's, 10 different ways that you could do it. But if you don't like 9 of them, then you've got your answer about how you would approach doing something, right? So I think, playing with different materials and getting a feel for like how those things react to certain tools and whether or not you even enjoy using them. It's like, I know plenty of people who love using paper clay and paper mache. I hate it. It's like one of my least favorite things to do. So that would probably be the other thing I would say about like getting into making stuff.
That's also a good point in that, like what we were talking about with Wicker Manor was they were trying to figure out what to make their cave walls of. And he went through, I went through 2 or 3 different things and ended up actually buying pre-made walls from a zoo company. But that was only because they were figuring out, well, people are going to be potentially running into them. There's scares and this is going to happen. And that only comes from the knowledge of, well, I can't do this because of this. And this material works this way, but it's in this situation, so this can't work for that. Then I think you're 100% correct. So speaking of different types of product and things, question in chat is what do you enjoy making the most? Like, what's the most enjoyable thing for you to create?
Funny, I was about to ask that same question.
Well, there you go.
Well, I can answer both yours and the chat's question. It's tombstones.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely love making tombstones. If we had more space, I would make more. But yeah, I really dig it.
How do you make your... So actually, let me real quick. So I have some pictures of your haunt. So for those who don't know, you ran... I mean, you still run as COVID has kind of...
Yes, we're back this year though, so...
Perfect. Okay. Well,
we will be in full swing.
And we will be there as well to take video because we're heading to LA this year.
Love it.
So real quick, can we go to this picture? So this is the Dorothy Van Oaks tombstone from some of the photos you sent me. This was from 2019, correct? The photos you sent?
2018.
2018. So this particular
2018, 2019.
This particular tombstone looks amazing. Can you describe how did you make this tombstone? Like what's it made out of? What process goes through to make something like that?
Sure, it's made out of 2-inch XPS insulation foam. It comes in like pink or blue and a variety of thicknesses. It's terribly hard to find in California these days because we don't have the weather to require it for new construction.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay.
But it's a super dense expanded foam that carves really well with a Dremel tool. And I'm a graphic artist. Normally, it's what I do for a living. So designing the epitaphs and all that sort of stuff is just sort of, again, that mental database of stuff. I make it a point to visit a cemetery, whatever city I go to, whatever country I'm in. So I just have all these different reference photos from different times to help build out this cemetery of unique looking tombstones. So, I figured out the layout, carved them out with a Dremel tool, and then it gets torch aged using a spray bottle and a propane torch, which gives it a really unique
describe what that is.
Texture. So imagine if you had a surface and then it had tens of thousands of little droplets of water on it. And anywhere where there's water is not affected by heat. But the areas that are not covered in droplets of water are melted, essentially, by the heat.
Got it.
So it creates a very craggy, organic, stone-like appearance that works absolutely perfectly for tombstones. It's something that I learned, 10 years ago. Lydia Rella from Morning Rose Manor taught me how to do it. I'd never seen it done before, and my mind was blown. Because it does take something very plain and boxy and industrial looking and just makes it look like stone.
And is that how you did, so on this Dorothy Van Oaks prop, is that how you did the carvings or the marks above the epitaph that aren't the cracks, that kind of look like almost look like, if I didn't think maybe you did it this way, you would have like sanded parts of it down. Is that how that was done?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks like that detail. I mean, it's stone. Like I would not think that this wasn't stone.
No, absolutely not.
That's the thing, and it's something that's so simple to do. It kind of takes getting a feel for it. But I'll tell you what, like your work with a Dremel tool could be terrible. I know mine was when I first started out, because you really have to get a feel for it. But it only takes like a tombstone or two to really like get a sense of how it works. But that technique just takes it like way over to the next level.
That's fantastic.
And what's particularly good about it too is that when you go to paint it, it gives all these like small nooks and crannies for the paint to collect in, which helps to give it a more natural weathered look when you do any level of distressing and stuff like that. So yeah, that is like my number one favorite thing to do for a tombstone, just because it really is transformative.
That's awesome. We're going through a couple of pictures of that you sent me of your tombstones, and Derek, I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah. This is
Wicked Manor actually said you have the best tombstones this side of the Mississippi. It's fantastic. We got a wide shot of the house in the yard. So your haunt, I mean, it's literally it is a cemetery. That is what you create every year.
Yeah, and that's it. It's not a walkthrough. It's not a show. It's literally just static with one projection effect in the window, and the rest of it is just like moody lighting and good sound effects.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic. It's so good. And I love the color choices. It's that like sort of ethereal kind of pulp comic looking horror thing, like that 80s, look where everything had, over the top greens and purples and blues.
Yeah.
My daughter is super into Mr. Boogedy right now, so that's kind of what's in my head.
Boogedy.
But I love it. And now, real quick, so we're looking at the column grave, I guess. I don't know what you'd call this. The Adelia Paul
Yes.
stone. So explain this one. So is the carving on top, is that pre-purchased or did you make that? Because that...
Purchase.
Okay, I was about to be like, dude, like,
me too.
We're talking about detail. I mean, dear God.
The first thing I do.
You got to talk to Steve at Grimwood Hollow if you want those levels of detail.
Oh, Grimwood! I got their shirt on right now. Here, can we cut to myself here? Look at that, Grimwood. There it is. Speaking of Grimwood Hollow, I wear this shirt all the time. Speaking of them, though, they are doing something a little different this year. They're actually doing like a little walkthrough tour thing. If you guys go check them out on Instagram, check out Grimwood Hollow. The availability is very limited, so you need to kind of reserve that in advance. We're going to be going through it and filming it. So if you are somewhere else and you can't make it, you'll be able to see it at least. But
we got you.
But Grimwood Hollow is, go check out their video on YouTube on our channel. It is obnoxious. It is so good, so good.
And Steve has also started making videos during the pandemic as well, so you can kind of watch the progress as they're making their way towards Halloween. And his sculpting is just like out of this world. It's so good.
We'll put a link in the description below for those who want to check that out.
Absolutely.
After. But yeah, so this particular, I don't know, is this even considered a tombstone because it's so big?
It's a monument.
Okay, a monument. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you make this? Is this still the pink foam?
Yeah, it's all foam. The bust on top is something that I had seen at our local hardware store for months on end. It had a different paint job, and was always more than I wanted to pay for it. And then one day I was there picking up like spray paint or something like that, and it was on clearance.
Oh, perfect.
And I was like, well, you're coming home with me now. Like,
exactly.
Done. And it was like, I don't know, 20 minutes in Illustrator working on an overall design, and then I was off to the races.
So, can we go into that for a second? So you do all of your epitaphs and all that design in Illustrator. So you're creating, for those who don't know, Adobe Illustrator is It's not Photoshop. It's vector art, often used for logos and text and things, or like vector cartoon art, that kind of stuff. I can't do any of that. I use it profusely for graphics, for After Effects, and for creating titles. That's what I use it for. So how do you use Illustrator as a maker?
Basically, when I'm working on Tombstones and stuff, I will set up a grid for myself so that I have a sense of scale when I go into a project. So I kind of have a 1 inch or 5 inch scale that I'll work at, and we'll just start drawing, squares, rectangles, whatever. And then when it comes to the more detailed stuff, like on that particular monument, the plaque in front, which is also made of foam, I think I just sort of did a quick and dirty layout of it to get a sense of what it would look like, and then I just cut it out of 1/2 inch foam and started making it, and off we went.
Nice. So the plaque is also foam. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it one single piece? Is that what we're talking about here? Is it one single piece, or is it 2 separate pieces?
The plaque itself is one piece.
Okay.
And then everything else is made up of multiple pieces.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. So you didn't do like all the letters individually and glue them all on one at a time?
No, I carved those out.
That's all carved.
So I basically did the inverse of like your typical tombstone.
Correct. Okay. Right. Exactly. It looks so good.
Yeah.
And then you did like a distressed, why can't I think of that word, metal paint job here on the plaque. And it's, I mean, from this photo, I'm zoomed in. Unfortunately, you can't see what we're looking at on the live stream. But I'm zoomed in so close, and I cannot tell that that's not metal.
No.
It's so good.
That's the thing. Like, paint hides all the crimes. I mean, the foam is nice to work with. You can get really crisp edges and stuff like that. So it's just like, for that particular piece, it was a steady hand. But it also sits a bit further back in our cemetery. So nobody ever really gets that close to it to where they could really dissect it. I kind of do that intentionally. If there's something that I feel like, maybe it's an older tombstone that I just haven't swapped out for a newer one yet, or it's something that I kind of like the scale of, but I don't think it's as good as some of the newer ones, or it doesn't move or whatever it might be. I tend to push those things further back in the display so that people can't really look at it that closely to like find the faults.
Your work is so good. There's no way anybody would be able to even closely find the faults. I think you might be experiencing what all of us who do any form of art are experiencing, where it's we know where the faults are, so we see them instantly, but other people cannot find them.
No.
Ever.
Yeah. I'm a professional pixel peeper.
Yes.
Like, I am the one that's going to be like, no, that text is not parallel to that text.
Oh, my Photoshop is nothing but rulers and all kinds
guides.
Of stuff. Yeah. I completely understand. Okay, real quick. There is another tombstone up near your house, all the way in the back. That is a person in a shroud.
Yeah, I gotta know.
Funny story about this.
All right, let's hear this one.
So when I first started dating my wife, I tried to play it super cool that I was not a total Halloween weirdo, and was like, oh yeah, I like Halloween. Halloween's cool. I decorate a little bit. And then she showed up at the house the first year and saw just how it wasn't just a simple decoration. And she was like, cool. Well, she's super artistic. And so she was like, I love Halloween stuff. I've never done any level of haunting or whatever, but I'm absolutely down to help out as much as I can. And so we got to talking, whatever, long story long, she had her heart set on making a statue. She knew exactly what she wanted it to look like. I was like, cool, but you haven't done any of this stuff before. And she was like, I've got it all figured out in my mind. And she has the benefit of, her mom was an art teacher. Her father was an engineer. She is the perfect blend of the two of them. So not only will she make it look awesome, she will build it in a way that is strong, stable, can withstand hurricane winds. She's a genius.
So what you're saying is you married well, because if you married an artist and
I married
an engineer,
up is what I did. She's awesome. And every year somebody comes to the yard and they look at it and they just stare for minutes on end, waiting for the person to like lunge forward or to shift their weight or something. She really understands body shape. And so, the one really big problem that you tend to see with a lot of like big monster mud statues is that they're all kind of built like football players.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I'm just as guilty of it. Like, you just go into the plumbing section, you buy an elbow and a 45-degree bend and whatever, and you're like, perfect, I've got a shoulder and an elbow, and now I just have to put some pipes in here and it's done. And she was like, no, I need a heat gun. I need some like heavy-duty leather gloves, because we're going to start bending this thing. We're going to give it a spine. We're going to give the shoulders some rounding. It was next level to watch it.
Every grave, what are they called? Grave breaker, grave bouncer, grave buster, whatever those props are called. Every single one of them, the shoulders are like, why are they so wide?
They are obnoxiously wide.
No person has ever lived with that wide of shoulders.
I think, because I've done this before too, you use yourself as a guide and you measure from like the center of your chest to your shoulder, but you forget that like you're also going to like maybe pad it out and then put it in clothing. And now all of a sudden those measurements are off by like 2 inches.
Okay.
Now your shoulders are like 2 inches wider on both sides.
So here's the question. When are you actually going to put a human being in there and literally make somebody jump out?
Dude, 1 year you have to do it.
You got to do it.
We've talked about this for probably 5 years.
Don't give it away.
Literally, like 1 year, there's just going to be 2 of them. And then all of a sudden people are going to be like,
what?
Cool, there's 2 now. That seems heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Because she's big, She's,
I mean, I can zoom out of this photo that I have up right now.
It is literally about a quarter of the way up on the window.
I mean,
from the ground up. So
if she stood up, be over 5 feet.
Oh, yeah, she's based on my wife's proportions. We actually took measurements. We busted out the measuring tape, and so every part of her is like correct anatomy to my wife's size. So, and she's 5'8".
Oh my God, yeah. What would be also awesome. Crazy would be to build another one, but just add like it moves just a little bit, just to make people go bonkers, just mess with their heads of like, is that
totally
even just like putting like a pad or something underneath the actual
just to move it up just down to move it
just enough to where like the visual will honestly mess with people's heads.
That's so good.
Dude, I as soon as he scrolled over to the picture and I saw that picture, I was like, that is bonkers. Like, it's legit.
It's so good.
Crazy good.
When is your display going up this year?
We usually do the last 2 weeks. It'll be up by the 17th of October.
17th of October. Okay. And then how would people find you? Like, where are you located? Where's the best way to find the address to be able to come see the display?
This is a great segue, Josh.
I know. Do you see where I'm going with this? I think you know.
I do see where you're going.
Okay, cool.
So if you are in the Southern California area, you can go to SoCalHauntList.com, which is a website that I started 9 years ago because people would show up at my front door and ask where else they could go to see other decorated houses. And so I just started putting together a list of people I knew in the haunt community, and 9 years later, we're at over 150 listings this year.
Nice.
Which I think is our biggest year ever, and the listings go from Ojai all the way down to Carlsbad.
We're on the site live right now, and it is the amount of haunts that are available to find as easy as they are is incredible. Like this, it's so good. SoCalHauntList.com. You guys can just click it on and just click the area you're in. Like we're in the Inland Empire and beyond. And there are so many haunts and it lists them out as to whether they're a walkthrough, whether they're a display, whether or not it's a paid attraction, it's a drive-through haunt, is it a show, whatever it is. This is fantastic. And it has their opening dates, it has the times.
When I started putting together the list, I thought it was just important because I was seeing a lot of people who, maybe it was like families with young children, so you wouldn't want to send them to like Reign of Terror in Thousand Oaks, for example, which would be far too extreme for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Or me. I don't like getting startled. So I just, every year it got like a little bit more refined to the point where I was like, okay, maybe it needs to have some level of iconography for people to easily tell what type of event it is, or display, or whatever it may be, and then what age group it was good for. I thought was also kind of important too, because you have some people that are like, I have a display, which most people would say it's a Halloween display. What about it? And then you have some people that are like, no, this is a pretty extreme display. There might be a lot of gore. There might be a lot of jump scares or whatever, like pneumatics and things like that might not be great for kids. And yeah, it's sort of a labor of love. I really enjoy putting the list out every year. It's always fun to see people get excited about it coming out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even live in SoCal, and every time I see a post that it's out, I'm like, oh, and like I have to go look, and I have to go see how many haunts are on there. The SoCal haunt list is one of my favorite things ever. What area has the most haunts on this list? I'm assuming the Los Angeles and beyond area.
It's either LA or the Inland Empire.
Really?
The IE, really?
Let's see.
Yeah. Well, and this year, no, I'm sorry. Last year was the first year that I broke it out into more categories, because it used to just be like Simi Valley and beyond, which would have been, Simi and Moore Park and Agoura and Thousand Oaks and all that, all the way up to like Ventura, Camarillo, the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, which would have been, Santa Clarita out to Palmdale to, Restless Souls and the Farm, and then Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is just sort of a bucket because LA is just so big, it's like hard to really start to break it into chunks. And then 2 years ago, there was really a lot of people that said, this would be a lot more helpful if there was maybe something for Orange County, maybe something for the IE. And so I just added in those 2 extra categories, which unfortunately makes the printed list have less haunts per area than they would have traditionally, which is why there's a huge QR code on the front now, because there's just way more haunts on the website. And the hope is that people will see that, maybe share it with other people that they're seeing while they're out looking at haunts. And then, everybody gets a little bit more love. It's a lot of time and effort and money put into making these displays and haunted houses. And I think, the more people that can get out to enjoy these things, the better.
Absolutely. No, and that's the way. I mean, this is amazing, and I really wish there was a haunt list for every area.
Right, and I was going to say
across the country, like a United States haunt list.
Doing anything like this costs money, and there's definitely people that have donated over the years, which I'm eternally grateful for. But a lot of that just kind of goes back into managing all of it. It pays for web hosting, it pays for postage to send stuff out. David and the team at Midsummer Scream have been the benefactor, the sponsors of the list for 6 years, 8 years, a really long time. Whenever it went from being something I was printing out on my printer here at home and handing out to people to a actual printed by professionals list on, glossy paper, they pick up the tab on that because they think it's important to the Southern California haunt community. And I appreciate that they do that. They don't have to.
That's a testament, though, to the Southern California community in general and Midsummer Scream and how everybody comes together to better everybody else. It's such a tight-knit haunt community. Like, it's
ridiculous.
If you've never been there, if you've never lived there, it's really hard to kind of comprehend, I think, how tight the haunt community is in LA. And I hope, watching Epic Home Haunts, I say LA, I mean Southern California, but I hope watching the movie Epic Home Haunts really, helps to push that a little bit. And, there's a reason why we started this, what was always going to be multiple films, why we started in LA. There's a reason why. And it's because of the community.
Yeah, but I also think that people have genuinely begged for this type of thing throughout the United States. Like it's LA, I feel like, is the cluster, the home, the place.
It's the hub for sure.
It grew.
Yeah.
You threw it down and you let it grow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people strive for that.
Yeah. Well, we've got, Knott's Scary Farm to thank, I think, for a lot of it. Knott's
For sure.
is, I think, the influence for 99% of everything we're seeing now. If you're into home haunting, definitely make it out to LA at some point for like the 2 weeks or a week before Halloween, whatever those weekends are, and just tour. Just grab a SoCal haunt list and go tour, because like when we go film, we'll go for 3-4 days and we can maybe get through 20.
Yeah, but we're not going to sleep though.
And that's running to try to get through these. There are more haunts than you can possibly go see. You can possibly go do.
No disrespect to anybody that we don't go to see.
Yeah, we love all of you.
We just don't have time. Like I love every single one of you, but we just don't have time.
But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. There's one more question in chat, Derek.
Oh, here we go.
That a couple people have asked for. What is the one thing you want to build that you haven't built yet?
There's non-Halloween stuff, and then there's Halloween stuff. The Halloween stuff, there's been much discussion about some type of crypt to be added to our display.
Okay.
That will have a projection effect, or Pepper's Ghost, or something interesting. Non-Halloween stuff, I would love to build Han Solo in carbonite.
Oh,
from Return of the Jedi from Star Wars.
Ooh, this is a good segue because we didn't talk about it. Derek will be very happy about that. Speaking of Derek, you also have a podcast with Darren.
And we're back.
Darren Moser. Darren, I'm so sorry. I've known you for so long and I just said your name wrong. Darren Moser.
Womp, womp.
I know. Hey, wait, where is it? It's this one.
Mm-hmm.
But you also run a Maker podcast with Darren Moser. What is that podcast and where can people find it?
It's called Maker's Method, and it is a weekly podcast with myself and co-host Darren Moser, who some people in the costuming community may know as Dr. Sci-Fi, and it's available on all podcast platforms. But we basically talk about all the things that make being a maker interesting, the challenges and the successes that we have as makers, and kind of how we deal with all that sort of stuff. So it's good listening if you just want a podcast on while you're working in the shop or whatever, to just kind of hear some other people's take on, being a creative person who likes to make stuff.
Perfect. And what is it called again?
Maker's Method.
All right. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic and one of the best, if not probably the best. Sorry, the other 4 podcasts that we've done.
We had some fun. We've had some fun here.
Please do not send me hate mail.
No, but you can DM him at Van Oaks Props.
You can.
This has been really fun. We will be back next Sunday with another interview. I'm not spoiling out who it is. I'm keeping these a secret. October is still going to be public for a little while, but probably by November, end of October, end of October, these live streams will be members only. So check out youtube.com/epichomehaunts, hit join, and you'll be able to see the replays, the edited versions afterwards if you are a non-member, but they will be members only in a short while. All right. Thank you guys for watching. This has been fun. I am Josh Quillen.
Andrew Van Dyke.
We'll see you guys.
We'll see you later, guys.
Next Sunday.
Yep.